Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. It's working? Yeah. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Try again, just refresh. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Mani Padme Hum.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you? Please have a seat. Thank you so much. Please sit.
Refresh, patient.
Are you tired? No. Actually, I have photos of different. Oh, you did it? Hello, everybody. Hello.
I'll just quickly welcome, I welcome all of you first. I think it's as many people as we've ever had at the Gompa in here. I'm amazed at how many people we can get in. Well then, to welcome especially Ösel, obviously, for his second time here. We're delighted to have you back. And also Sarah and Jackie, who are here for the first time. It's lovely to see you all. Although I think it's going to be quite an exciting afternoon because we gave Ösel 4 topics to choose from. And he's taken on the challenge of talking about all of them. He'll be here for a good 2 hours, if not 3 hours. So, thank you, Ösel.
Can I have the topics, by the way?
Can you remember, Jackie?
I have it up in the room if you want me to get the paper.
Maybe on
That
the
would be
poster.
nice.
In and out of Guru was one of them.
Ray. Somebody who's close to the door. I kind of remember them, but just to have them in. Okay. Thank you so much for coming. It's really wonderful to see so many beautiful, radiant faces. It's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So, but I thought also we could have a couple more subjects that maybe you can suggest. Not too many more, but just a couple, just to get an idea of what we can talk about today. So, any suggestions? Anything you would like me to talk about?
That's all right.
Yes.
I find it interesting how in Buddhist philosophy we often talk about Buddha nature and how the path is about developing this. But how can we maybe talk about this in a more secular way to people maybe who don't wish to label themselves as being Buddhist?
Okay. Buddha nature. Okay, what else?
I have one. Inner Guru.
Yeah, I think we have that.
Yeah, okay.
We have that. Something different? Something else? Or not?
I guess how to trust if you're not going crazy or not.
What?
If you're not going crazy.
We're all crazy. Look at the world.
When you're going crazy.
Look at our lifestyle.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You compared with the animals, I think we're totally crazy. I'm joking. So what is the question like? Are we crazy?
It's like we're crazy now, but when you go to the other side a bit more, maybe you feel like you're going crazy because you're not like everyone else is crazy anymore.
I think we would have to define crazy.
Okay, let's define crazy then.
Definition of crazy. From inside or from outside? Ah. Okay, what else?
How to make our meditation kind of alive and not something that we maybe like feels.
You fall asleep.
Yeah.
Alive meditation. Okay. More suggestions or are we good? Yes, please, of course.
Our mindset and thoughts on climate change now.
Climate change. Okay, we talked about that in Jamia actually. So it's good, yeah, climate change. Okay. Maybe one more if you want. Or two more.
Remaining hopeful in the state of climate change. Remaining hopeful.
Okay. Yes?
How to use the mind when the outer guru is doing and saying things that conflict with one's culture.
So how to deal with your
How
mind?
to deal with the mind when the outer guru appears to be saying and doing things that contradict one.
That's a tricky one because I'm not very traditional, but I am a traditional within. Okay, so let me just give an introduction. So I grew up in a monastery, right? So I have a very traditional background. My upbringing was super duper mega traditional. So I have that background. So I am I come from a traditional background basically. But I have a hard time following the traditional kind of concept because I think we have to find a kind of an adaptation to the Western kind of mind. So that's one of the reasons also why I left the monastery was because I found it hard to be able to relate to people if I didn't understand their lifestyle or where it came from. Because living in a monastery, it is a little bit of a bubble sometimes. So that's one of the reasons. Of course, it's not an excuse, but but that was one of the reasons. So yeah, it's a very tricky question, but I'll try my best to give an maybe update of my point of view together with the traditional point of view. Okay, so
I mean, just to give background, after 45 years of traditional Tibetan Buddhism, it's very interesting coping with the mind as one begins to reconnect with one's roots.
Yeah, it is a tricky subject. It's a very tricky subject to tackle, actually, because it has many different perspectives, and of course, I mean, we do have to think about it in life. Everybody has a different perspective, no matter what. You know, I mean, we relate to each other, but we all have different backgrounds and life, and you know, childhoods and mentalities and information. All these different factors come together. So we do have to be able to, you know, understand that everybody has a different perspective of life and in life. So that's something that also we have to be aware of. Okay, so that's good. We're happy with those subjects also, or anything else? Good? Okay. So let's start with the motivation. I think motivation is so important, so important. Because motivation is the key, right? I mean, all the actions and the thoughts, they call it the three doors, right? So the mind, the body, the speech. All of that originates with the motivation. So motivation, karmically speaking, if you want to talk about traditional point of view, non-secular, you would think like that, you know, like karma, the way karma works, the main active ingredient would be motivation, right? So if the motivation is correct, the karma, it goes in that direction, right? So for example, there's many examples, but that's why everything starts with the motivation. Why? And for example, I mean, even if you don't think in a traditional way, if you think in a normal, everyday lifestyle way, the motivation is a huge factor, because just think about it. If your motivation is an egoist, self-cherishing, self-centered motivation, I want to be happy, and you do something, the result is going to be very hard, going to be something that's going to satisfy you or actually to make you happy. Because that's not the correct motivation, right? How are you going to be happy if you're just thinking about me? It's always going to be unsatisfied because that's the way the mind works, right? But instead, if your motivation is, like, I want to be able to know what happiness is or reach a certain type of happiness in order to be able to offer that to others, to be, and like share that. So automatically that is going to bring a different result. And it's not a traditional point of view, it's a very practical point of view that you actually can see in every day. Would you agree? It makes sense, right? So that is also another reason why motivation is so important. So in everyday life, you can think about one day is a little bit like a lifetime. We're born in the morning, we die at night. In the morning we're fresh, and then in the afternoon, slowly we get tired, and then eventually we have to go to sleep, right? So we're almost training for death and training to be reborn again. So it's just a metaphor, but life is a cycle, right? We are going through many different cycles that many times repeat themselves, and until we learn and we are able to adapt, and then we move on to the next cycle. So that's why motivation in the morning when you wake up, so important to have correct motivation, good motivation you can remember, and to dedicate. Okay, today, the time I'm going to spend, the space I'm going to share, the energy I'm going to share, may be of benefit. So may I help myself in order to be of benefit for others. So just having that motivation is going to really change your day, and you're going to be more happy, right? Because you're dedicating your time and your energy to others. Yeah? So that is automatic. And of course, I think together with motivation, there should be gratitude. Because many times, one of the reasons why we're unsatisfied is because we're not really present and we're not grateful enough. We're unsatisfied, we want something else. This is not enough, right? And that's a little bit, society does bombard us with that concept of consumerism and always searching outside the materialism, because that supposedly will make us happy. So that's why I think if we have a good motivation and we're grateful for what we have, it's a key point, stepping stone towards having a more fulfilling and at least not unhappy life. So let's start with that, okay? So because I'm very traditional, actually within inside, so I'm just going to do it in Tibetan style, and then you can join with your motivation and gratitude. Sangye chedan sangye chenam la chanju padu dani kyasuchi dani jinso gibe sanam gi tora tenje sangye drupa sho sangye chedan sangye chenam la chanju padu dani kyasuchi dani jinso gibe sanam gi tora tenje sangye drupa sho sangye chedan sangye chenam la chanju padu dani kyasuchi dani jinso gibe sanam gi tora tenje sangye drupa sho. So let's start with Buddha nature. I think that's a great way to start with. I just have to check some notes. Okay. So basically, the Dharma talks about Buddha nature. We have two types of Buddha nature. One is the Buddha nature by nature, the Buddha nature by development, right? So it's like a little bit like saying we have the seed, but we have to create the circumstances and the cause for that seed to grow, right? So the water, the earth, the air, the sun, the caring, all of those aspects of the tree. And you can say the tree is inside the seed in a way, but actually it's just the potential. The tree is not really there, right? And so it's a little bit like that. That is the Buddha nature that's already there. That's like the seed. But if we don't create the cause for that seed to grow properly, it's very difficult for the seed to actually become that potential. So that's why I think the important aspect of Buddha nature is the development, right? So if we don't work, if we don't put effort, then we're just kind of like losing an opportunity or missing on something really good. It's almost like the example, they say in the text of, like for example, if we somehow end up in this completely isolated island that nobody knows about, somewhere super secret, somewhere in the middle of the ocean, which you get there and it's full of gems and diamonds and gold and all these precious jewels that we kind of value so much. I don't know why, but we value it a lot. So we get to an island like that, and then we leave and we get back to wherever we came from, and we don't even have one little gem with us. It's a little bit weird, right? I mean, most of us would probably want to grab and fill our pockets up with gems, right? So it's a little bit like that. So if you have such an amazing opportunity to practice Dharma and to understand the nature of your mind and to know your potential, and you have all this information that's been passed through generations by people who actually reached realizations and have that experience, and the technique, which is a universal technique. It's a mechanism that works for everybody. It's not like, for some people it works and for others not. It's a universal thing. So if we don't take anything, then it's a little bit strange, So that's why in Dharma it talks a lot about, we are suffering, we have a problem, we're far away from reaching a goal, which is mainly to scare us, to thinking, I don't have much time. I mean, they talk about impermanence, right? Anytime you can just suddenly everything finishes. So you have to be aware, that's mainly to scare you in order to have to be more motivated, to put the effort. But actually, if you think about it, the mind doesn't have a beginning. So our minds don't have a beginning. And I don't know if they have an end or not, probably not. But the end, it's basically to reach enlightenment, right? So that's our aim. So it's good to have an objective, to say, okay, I want to go in that direction. But sometimes if it's too far away, it can be quite hard to really fathom, how to get there. So that's why it's good to have an objective, but we have to take baby steps. And so slowly. So first you have the aim, you know where you want to go, but then you start here. You have to be realistic, right? So I think what His Holiness Dalai Lama, we're so lucky to be, on this planet at the time of His Holiness, and the teachings of His Holiness Dalai Lama to be available. And also Lama Soba Rinpoche and many other great teachers. I think it's so lucky for us to be able to be here, and we have to be able to value that. And His Holiness talks about the warm heart, and I think that's a very practical way of understanding the concept of bodhicitta, or at least the beginning of it, the start. Is you have to, bodhicitta is way out there, it's like far away. So how do you start? You start with the warm heart. And how do you start with a warm heart? I think it's very difficult to love others if you don't love yourself. It's very hard to have patience with others if you don't have patience with yourself. It's hard to be humble if you're not humble with yourself. All these concepts, it starts within, right? Everything starts within. So if you don't practice that with yourself, then it's very difficult. Very easy to blame others. Oh, I lost patience with such and such person. No, you didn't lose patience with another person. You lost patience with yourself. And it's easy to blame others. So we can get into that afterwards. But right now I think Buddha nature, we have to focus on that right now. Otherwise I go all over the place, like my mind. So Buddha nature is like the gift that we have, and we've always had that, but in this lifetime we have the opportunity to create the cause for that seed to. So that is why we're here today, and that is, I think, in a way what we're searching also during our life, because everybody's searching for something, right? Everybody's looking. What are we searching for? We're searching for happiness, right? For fulfillment, to feel good, to feel happy, and not just a temporary happiness. And we want to solve our temporary suffering also. So that's the reason why we're searching. We want to understand. And I think the most basic concept is that happiness doesn't come from being selfish or self-cherishing. Happiness comes from having a genuine feeling and desire to be of benefit and of service. And that is really where the satisfaction comes from. You feel accomplishment kind of aspect, because that, I think, when you accomplish something out of great effort, then you really feel good, right? So that's what we're trying to get to. So how to start? I think first, motivation, gratitude, that's basic, and of course, warm heart, love. With me yesterday, and every day I'm improving. And sometimes you may make mistakes, right? And I think if you don't make mistakes, you're not doing anything. That's how it is. That's what going to the gym is all about, for example. It's just an example. When you go to the gym, you go and you fail. Every day. It's true. And then every day, slowly, you improve a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, until you start to see the result. But if you don't fail, you're not doing anything, because that is what it's about. You have to fail. So some people think, I failed. No, it's awesome, great. Failing is really important. That's how you learn. You learn by making mistakes and understanding. Of course, you can't say, okay, I'm going to keep making mistakes. That's a different kind of example. But you make a mistake, you learn from the mistake, you move on. Right? And if you keep repeating the mistake, you try as best as you can to improve and change that. But I'm talking more about failing. And failing is not a mistake, because failing means you're trying. You're trying to understand that concept. And that is what it's about, improvement. So where are we trying to get to? We're trying to reach a fulfilling life where we can share that happiness with others, that presence, basically. So I think for me, okay, let me just try to explain my concept of Buddha. Buddha, what we are, or what we can be. So when you visualize the Buddha, for example, Buddhas represent different aspects of ourselves, the most advanced version of ourselves. So for example, compassion, so you visualize Chindrasik, and then you visualize that, and then that is the embodiment of compassion. So basically, Buddhas are representing what we can be. And that is the beauty of it. It's not about, there's Buddhas out there. People, you can believe different things. But it's more about a technique that helps to change yourself from within. Because we are creatures of habit, and we do work a lot with habit. So, like for example, praying, you could call it habit alignment, for example. Because you're making the wish, you're actually visualizing, you're actually, thinking and trying to create a new pattern in your mind. So for example, if you pray every day, I want to be a benefit for others, eventually that's what you're going to be. Right? So I think it's a little bit like that, The more you wish for something, the more you really desire something for the benefit of others, the closer you get there. And Buddha nature of how powerful we are, what a huge potential we have. This is saying, be proud for you are, right? Be proud because you are, because you exist, right? Because of who we are, we have Buddha nature, Buddha potential. But be humble because you belong. You know, you belong, you're part of something much bigger than yourself. Right? And we belong to that collective. And that's why we have to be humble. So it's a balance between one side and another. It's really important. The balance is so important, you know. We need moderation, we need balance in life, because that is really the best way, you know, when you actually find a middle way. Extremes, I mean, it's okay to go to extremes in order to know what it's like. It's the best. You know? So just keep the middle way. And I think that makes sense to everybody. I don't really have to explain that very much. But yeah, you can actually put it in practice in everyday life to try to keep the balance. I mean, there's so many things to talk about, actually. Wow. The mind, you know, the mind goes like, it's like a crazy monkey, like a wild animal, you know, it's like a panther, you know, jumping all over the place, scratching all the trees, or the furniture if it's inside your house, right? Imagine having a wild panther inside your house. Goodbye furniture, right? So that's, you know, we have to take mind. You know, it's like a muscle. If you don't train and tame, you know, then you can't, you know, desarrollar. You know how to say desarrollar in English? Develop. We can't develop. You know, it's in order to develop. It's not like, oh, I want to have big muscles. I'm going to do 5 push-ups, and oh, why don't I have muscles yet? Then you get all frustrated. That's a little bit like that. You know, it's like people, it happens. Oh, I meditate, and nothing's happening. Doesn't happen like that. You need dedication. It's like a muscle. The mind, you have to train the mind. You have to work the mind. And it's not just the mind, it's complementary. You know, you have to also take care of your body. The nutrition, you know, you have to be very aware of what you eat, because we are what we eat. Right? So the food is very important. The mind, the thoughts that we have, you may think, oh, you know, the thoughts are not so important, you know, nobody knows about what I'm thinking. Right? But if you actually think carefully, absolutely everything in this room was transformed by a thought. Originally, it started with a thought. Not just in this room, but everything that's been manipulated by humans started with a thought. It had to start with a thought, right? So even the way that flowers have been arranged, it started with a thought, right? So that's how powerful thoughts are. That is the effect they have. They have a huge effect. So you can't think, oh, you know, nobody knows what I'm thinking, it doesn't really matter. It does. It has a huge effect, not only on your mind itself, because you create a habit pattern, but it also has a huge effect on your body. Because our body is composed by billions of cells and amoebas and sentient beings, if you think about it. We have a universe of sentient beings within us that are our responsibility. And they are affected by our thoughts. And it's not just spiritualism or religion or philosophy that talks about it. It's also science. And that's also why we're entering a golden age, because science and spirituality is coming together. You know, they're actually agreeing, they're crossing the roads together. So that is amazing. You know, so that we can actually have different perspectives from different cultures that talk about the same aspect of reality. They both say that the universe is a hologram. That it's 99.9999% empty. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Well, it's a concept though, right? It's just a concept. Who knows? Who knows? I don't know, that's for sure. It looks solid to me. But, you know, many people that have been training their minds throughout thousands of years, they say that. And many people who've been actually working in science and really, you know, going and splitting the atom and this and that, they also talk about the same thing. So there must be some kind of truth within that. And I think that is so interesting, you know, so interesting. And it's true, you know, the thoughts are so powerful. Thoughts are so powerful. So that's why we must tame our mind. That's, I think, very important step. How to tame your mind is, of course, we're used to be bombarded by the 5 senses. You know, society also, we are very distracted and entertained all the time, you know, because in a way, we are, I mean, society does talk about, like, a little bit like oh, happiness is outside, we have to search outside. Like all the time outside. So it's important to sometimes just shut off all the five senses. And that is where you really find the peace, right? You find the peace when you shut off the senses. That is called peace of mind. When you can actually turn off the mind, right? And just breathe. It's possible. Some people say, oh, it's impossible to turn off the mind. No, it's possible. Start with 1 second, and then you do 2 seconds, and so you do 3 seconds, until you get to 10 seconds. If you can stop thinking for 10 seconds, that's already a realization. You know? So it's not complicated. We make it complicated. Life is simple. Dharma is simple. But we make it very complicated. Because we like complicated things. We enjoy that. We like it somehow. It's true, because we want a challenge, right? And the more we complicate it, the more of a challenge it becomes. So anyway, so I think it's really important to keep things simple. So yeah, I think the first step, always focus on the first steps. You can't expect to build the roof if you don't have the foundation or the blueprints of what you want to build. So if you start with the blueprint, which is to tame the mind. The mind will trick you. The mind is it's like a cloud in the sky. It comes and goes. It's very ephemeral. You can't really... When you go to grab it, there's nothing there. So it's good sometimes to just observe the thoughts coming and going. And they say, for example, between one thought and another, there's very much clarity. There's a lot of clarity. But it's just a split second, but it's there. Just like when you sneeze. When you sneeze also, it's a small aspect that's related to, for example, emptiness. Or when you yawn, there's a split second that's there. And if you, it's good, that's why that's also another type of meditation, analytical meditation, you just, between one thought and another, you try to understand what is in between. And that is the clarity that we're looking for, right? Because this thought is just a creation, it's a kind of a survival instinct. It's like a tool, almost. It's a tool, it's like saying, oh, I'm the screwdriver. And a screwdriver is a tool that helps you to be able to... But you're not the screwdriver. Of course, I don't want to create confusion, but in Dharma it does talk about the clear light nature, right? So that's what we want to achieve. We want to get there. We want to understand what the clear light nature is. So that's like the purity, the pure aspect of who we are. And it's there. It's for everybody. So that you can also call it Buddha nature. If you want to change the name, it's a clear light nature. I don't know. I don't want to contradict myself. Is that create conflict? Clear light nature, Buddha nature.
You don't even have to say nature. Just
okay, clear light.
Why is it in Tibetan?
Where's Sal boss?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, please.
Sorry.
Yes.
We all have the eternal part of us.
The what?
We all have an eternal part
Internal,
in us
yeah.
that we go from reincarnation to incarnation. And wouldn't Buddha nature be part of that eternal part of us?
Yeah, of course, it's always there. It's always there. It's just many times we're not aware of it. We make ourselves very small, we think, we limit ourselves. We're scared of our potential. So that's why, it's so beautiful, the way Dharma offers all these techniques, because it's a very, I could say even romantic way of seeing life. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful technique, I think. And it's just amazing, what's available. I don't think we are aware how precious this time is for everybody. We are entering a very important time, and of course, yes, we're going to talk about climate, I guess. I don't really know much about climate change, but it is true that we are reaching a point of no going back, right? At least that's what the scientists are saying. And they may be wrong, but most likely they're not. Hopefully, the planet is fine. It's the humans that are not fine. So the Earth may just get a fever and sneeze, and that's it. Goodbye, humanity. Right? The Earth has been here for millions of years. She's been through so much. different transformations. So I think that's one of the things, is that we're not very aware of. I mean, we live like as if we're immortal. That our attitude in life is as if we are immortal. So that's why in Dharma it talks about a lot about impermanence. We have to be aware of impermanence. It's not like, oh, I'm gonna die, and then you project that and you're creating that reality. It's not about that. It's more about being aware. That everything can change any moment, so that you have to be on top of things. You have to be on top of things. You have to work a little bit at least in order to actually use this opportunity that we have. So an opportunity is like an arrow. Once you throw it, that's it. Once you shoot it, or a word that you say fast without thinking, can't take it back, right? That's like an opportunity. It's like that. So when the opportunities arrive, it's important to take it. At least you tried, right? Many people, sometimes they say, what do you regret? It's not that they regret doing stuff. They regret not doing things most of the time. So that is one aspect of life, that we have the opportunity, and every day we can do it. Even if it's just 2 minutes, you can do meditation, 2-minute meditation. And then you add up the 2 minutes, you can have 10 2-minute meditations per day, and that's already 20 minutes. And that's going to change your life. That's going to transform it. And then you're going to be able to share that with others. As an example. Because they're going to see you have peace of mind, you're calm, you're aware, you're really empathic and compassionate, and then people are going to be inspired by that, and you can help people like that. So that's a great motivation, for example. Okay, so outer guru, inner guru. Guru, what's guru? Can I have, what's guru for you, for example? Can I get some input? What's guru? What is a guru?
Guide.
Guide, teacher? What else?
Removes the influence of the darkness of ignorance.
So light, like the sun, for example. Yeah. What else?
Safety, protection.
Sorry?
Safety, protection.
Protection?
Yeah.
What else?
Inspirer.
Inspiring, yes. Great. What else?
Someone who shows you yourself.
Very good. Reflection. What else?
The one who has reached the path, is at the end goal.
Okay. What else?
Buddha nature.
Buddha nature. We're back in the beginning. Yeah, the guru. I think. So, for example, I like to make I have examples, because example really simplifies things a lot. So, a guru is, for example, let's think about a lighthouse, right? A lighthouse. So you're in the dark ocean at night, and you're traveling by boat. Of course, first you have to think about the boat, right? Are we the captains of our boat or not? And are we letting the wind to push us around everywhere, or are we actually using the wind to choose where we want to go? And where are we going? We want to go to a safe haven, right? That's what we want to get the boat somewhere, so we can move on land, right? We want to get somewhere. That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing in life. We're trying to get somewhere. So most of us, we just let the wind blow us anywhere, and we're just going one direction, another direction, and then the boat just may crash or just get deteriorated, and then we're lost and we don't really know what we're doing or where we're going. So that's why it's very important to have a direction, an aim, an objective, right? So we can say it's enlightenment, or we can say it's non-unhappiness, or it can be. For me, for example, my purpose is to be of service. That's my direction. And then how do I do that? Is by working on myself a lot, training myself to improve every day, and competing with myself from yesterday, right? And striving to, tomorrow I'm going to be better. Tomorrow I'm going to accomplish more. Tomorrow I'm going to try harder. If I fall, I get up again. If I fall again, I get up again. Like that. So not to give up. I think that's also a very important aspect. Not to give up. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get somewhere. So the boat, that's a boat. And we're the captains of the boat because we're taking the reins of our life, right? We're taking hold of, we're the boss of our life, right? We don't let other people push us around. We don't want to live other people's lives. That's one of the reasons I left the monastery. I couldn't live other people's lives anymore. I wanted to live my own life. And I wanted to understand my truth. It wasn't enough to just people say, oh no, this is your truth, this is what you have to be, you have to live this life. That wasn't enough for me, that was just, it didn't make sense. So I wanted to live my life, right? I want to have my own experience, not just believe, just spoon-fed, basically, you know. Anyways, that's another story. But, so, the Guru is like the lighthouse in the middle of a dark ocean. And we're not going towards the Guru, are we? Are we going to the lighthouse? What happens if the boat goes to the lighthouse? We crash, right? Because the lighthouse most likely is around cliffs. It's actually warning us. It's saying, don't come close. There are rocks in this area. But what do? We all go to the Guru. So if boats acted like we act with Gurus, all the lighthouse would have all these crashed boats all around. So I think that's something we have to really clarify. We're not going towards the Guru. The Guru is helping us, is directing us, saying, hey, here are rocks, it's that way or this way. That's where the safe haven is. So it's a guide. But we're not going to the Guru. It's like, yeah, anyways. It's like if we're in a dark forest without any light and then suddenly the full moon comes up. It helps us to see better so we can choose which direction to go. But we're not going to the moon. Right? It's just examples. But it's a little bit like that, you know? So I think that's a very important aspect of the outer Guru that we confuse a lot. Because people get, you know, it's like it, I mean, I'm not talking about it taking refuge, the Dharma point of view, but the taking refuge as like a spiritual bypassing kind of taking refuge aspect. You know, we cling, we get so attached. And the same mistake we're making before, maybe, with the materialism, like, oh, the new car, or the new computer, or I want to have a beautiful wife, or a beautiful husband, and I want to have a beautiful family, and a beautiful this, and a beautiful that, and it's never ending. And we just idealize, and we're setting ourselves up to disappointment, or for disappointment, right? We're setting ourselves up, and we even know it. Idealization is just, that's what it does. We create this fantasy. It's good sometimes to, you know, idealize the concept, but you can't just grasp. You know, but that's what we do. We grasp, we cling, we just get so attached. And then what happens? We're disappointed. So it's not about that. It's not about that, because we're trying to get out of that, right? We're trying to understand our mind. We're trying to recognize these aspects. So we can't get attached to the Guru. I mean, of course, it's very important to, I mean, that's why it's very important to be able to be aware of the difference between attachment and love. Non-conditional love has nothing to do with attachment. Something completely different. So I think also that's one of the reasons why sometimes, you know, we kind of get lost. Because we're just taking refuge in something in order to avoid confronting ourselves. And I think that's the first step. Before you go anywhere, you have to confront yourself. I mean, you have to understand. You have to check yourself. You have to look at yourself. You have to recognize, you know, I don't have a word for it. Well, I do have a word for it, but I don't even want to use it. You have to recognize your bullshit. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'll just say it once. So you get the picture. Sorry?
When you do that, the experience can be incredibly painful.
Oh yeah, of course.
What is the process? What things have you keep you encouraged to keep returning to that space?
You mean the safe haven inside? Well,
towards the recognition of your own deception.
You said, I like that word. That's better. I'll start Okay. Your own deception. Yeah. We have to be aware of our own deception. Yes, correct. So I think first of all we have to be our own best friend. That's very important. We have to really be able to love ourselves, truly love ourselves, you know. And that is the first step. And then it's at the same time when things come up, observe, check. Don't try to avoid by taking refuge somewhere. So many times we have issues, we have problems, and then we're like, oh, it's okay, you know. We have the Guru. oh, we have the Dharma, we have this, or like, for example, oh, I have a problem, but buying a new car is going to solve it, or if I get this job, it's going to solve it. So we create this idealization, right? We create this concept. So the same happens with spirituality. We bypass. We use spirituality in order to avoid that, to confront that deception. So that's why it's very important to be your best friend. And for example, if you're lonely alone, you're going to be lonely with anybody. People are like, oh, I'm so lonely, I need to be with someone, I need someone in my life because I feel so lonely. Well, until you don't solve that, whoever you are with, you're going to be lonely. If you're unhappy, oh, I'm so unhappy, I need to change place, I need to go live in another country, I have to change house, or I have to change this and that. If you're unhappy with yourself, wherever you go, whichever circumstances, you're going to be unhappy. Why? Because happiness doesn't come from outside. It comes from the inside. It starts from within. So if you're happy with yourself, if you're not lonely with yourself, then you can be with anybody and you'll be happy and you won't be lonely. So that's also what Dharma is talking about in a way. So that's why it's very important to be aware of this spiritual bypassing, because that's very dangerous. Otherwise, you're like, oh, you just use it as a means to avoid confronting yourself. And then 20 years pass by and then you're like, oh, what happened? Why am I still, having the same issues? Right? So it's just a technique, it's a tool, But ultimately, we have to walk our own path. Nobody's going to walk it for you, right? We have to find our own truth. Nobody can give you the truth because each person has their own truth, their own experience. There's a universal truth, there's something that we share, that we can relate to, but we are the ones who are in charge of our boat. And we have to make sure that we take charge. And that's why I think habit is so important, to create new habits, to change the old habits that are not beneficial, and to create new habits that are beneficial. Slowly, slowly, slowly. You can't change from one day to another. But you can create the space for that change to occur, and you can motivate yourself and push yourself in that direction, slowly. And if it's challenging, then just look back and say, hey, look, look how far I came from. Right? I got up to here, even though there's a long way to go. At least I've accomplished this much. That will really help to motivate me. So I thought it was very important to clarify that aspect, that concept of the outer guru. Some people are like, oh, the guru smiled at me. Oh, I'm so happy today. And then the next day, oh, the guru didn't even look at me. I'm so depressed. It's like, poor guru, right? I mean, come on. You get a responsibility you're giving him. He has to smile at everybody. He has to hug everybody or whatever. It's just an example. But it happens. People are really like, oh, when the guru comes, everybody gets so stressed and just, and it should be the opposite. When the guru comes, everybody should be much more harmonious, much more loving, much more kind, much more humble, much more patient. Why do people get so nervous and like that? Maybe fear, I don't know. It could be fear, it could be... What do you think it is, actually? Why do you think we get so nervous sometimes? Not always, but I've seen it sometimes. People get really stressed. And I think those kind of moments are the best situation to put in practice what we're learning. So meditation is not about sitting in a cave and, I'm so special, I'm so important, I'm meditating, look at me. It's not about that. It's about putting in practice in everyday life, whatever you do, however you're doing it, to be aware, to be conscious, of who we are and what we're doing. Because I've seen people who've been practicing Dharma for 30 years, but then they talk really rudely to the waiter or to somebody who they don't know, or even to people who they know. Like gossip or criticism, that happens so often, people love to criticize. But you know why? Because they don't want to confront their own mistakes. They don't want to check themselves. And that is also an issue. Because why would you criticize your brothers and sisters? Why would you do that? A real friend is someone that criticizes you, a constructive criticism in your face. Right? With the intention of helping. Not too much, of course, because it can affect you. But just enough so that you understand that aspect of yourself, which maybe many times we are not able to see by ourselves. And a real friend will talk good about you behind your back. Right? So that is true virtuous friend. And that somebody that helps you to to do virtuous actions and to be a virtual person, not virtual, sorry. Virtuous person. We are actually a bit virtual, aren't we? I mean, if we're living in a hologram, are we a hologram too? We are? So the clear light is a hologram?
It makes one.
It makes one, huh? Okay, we will debate about that tonight. Oh no, you're leaving. Next time then. So the inner guru, what is the inner guru? So inner guru is complementary with the outer guru, you know? Because we have that potential, you know? So it's... what does it really mean? If you think about it, like a baby, you can't teach a baby how to crawl or how to walk. You can't. You can be the example for him to learn, right? So, I mean, you can have all the teachers in the world. If you don't want to learn, they can't teach you anything. So that is what the inner guru, that is what it means. The inner guru is, you are your own inner guru because you're the only one who can choose to learn or to learn. Or to teach yourself, you could also call it like that. You know, you could have all the information, but if you don't want to learn or teach yourself, or try to understand, or have the intention to want to understand, then it's completely useless. You can have all the gurus in the world, all the information in the universe, and you can't do anything with it. So that is what it's talking about. The inner guru is that. In the end, it's about the inner guru, right? So that's a little bit kind of like my concept of that. And of course, we're all changing, you know, so we're all learning every day, and I'll be learning, even the day I die, I'll be learning about the process of death. So, you know, please correct me if I make a mistake, and I'm really sorry if I create any confusion. That's why I like constructive criticism, and I like questions also. Any questions? Okay, so definition of crazy. Okay, I want to know what is crazy. What do you think? What's crazy?
Believing what you think. Believing what I think.
Oh yeah, that's more a Buddhist kind of point of view crazy. Crazy would be a little bit like outside of what society expects of us, or things like going outside of society's, maybe society's what, habit maybe, or society's way of thinking, I don't know. What else?
The two types of crazy.
Okay, tell me please.
You know, people who actually are on the periphery of things, they think differently from the herd, and that's good crazy. And then there's the bad crazy, people going out shooting people in malls and stuff.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I would say there's it's how, just on the same coin, but there's a good crazy.
Yeah.
But it's like, what kind of intention is behind it?
Yeah.
If it's good, if you want to be an individual, just people that are like thinking that way,
Yeah.
blinkers around their eyes, then that's good crazy. There's good crazy and bad crazy.
Good point. Very good point. Thank you for clarifying that. Yes. Good. Definition. So that's a good definition of crazy, right?
I think also when you're lost to your own thoughts, and you that it becomes scary.
Yeah, can you trust your thoughts?
Can you trust your thoughts? No.
No.
No, you can't.
What about what you see? I don't know.
You can't trust that either.
Yeah. If things feel more special, then are you going crazy or not?
I'm joking. I mean, you can. It's more about intuition. I mean, experience. I mean, this is the thing. Sometimes we become so proud, we think we know. You know? We're just so humble that we think we don't know. So that's why it's important to balance, you know, to have the middle way, you know, a little bit. We can't follow our mind. Wherever our mind goes, if we follow it, that's crazy. To follow your mind everywhere it takes you. Okay. I think it's... I mean, of course, if you think about it, what are thoughts? Thoughts is just a hallucination almost. Like, it's not... I mean, where... It's almost like... He's laughing. He's like, oh, I'm getting into trouble now. It's like a delusion almost, you know, like, because we believe them to be solid, we believe them to be real, but where are the thoughts? Where, you know, I mean, okay, let me just give you an example. Let's say we make right? To get a group photo. When we see the photo, what are we going to look at? The first thing we're going to look at. Me, right? And what is it? What we're going to check? Or do I look good?
Yeah.
Right?
You wrote this on your blog recently.
What?
You wrote this on your blog recently.
Yeah.
Big love.
True, exactly. Thank you. So, that is the first thing we're going to be aware. Oh, do I look good or not? Me, right? So we have this preconception of what looks good or not. And most likely we're going to say, oh, you know, or whatever, because we tend to do that. We tend to put ourselves down because we compare. It's just a little bit how we've been wired up. We have this preconception of a beautiful model somewhere in a photo, and we're like, oh, I'd like to be like that. And if I buy this product or this baby cream, I'm going to look like that or something like that. And then obviously that model doesn't even exist because the actual model whose photo they took probably also thinks the same. Oh, I wish I actually really looked like that. It's true, it's been photoshopped 20 times or 30 times, right? So that is already an idealization that's not real. It's not real, but that is what society kind of... So that, that is... When we look at the photo, we're wired that way, to be very critical about ourselves. And then, of course, what is the first thought? Well, at least that's what happens to me. I'm like, oh, I don't look very good in the photo. That's my first thought. Then maybe 10 years pass by. Right? And you come into...
Yes.
What do you do again? Look for yourself. Oh, where am I? Where's me? Ooh, here. Oh, wow, I really look good then. I really look good back then. Oh, wow. Oh, I wish I looked like that now. But the photo is exactly the same. So what changed? Our mind changed. So that's a perfect example of how we can't really trust our mind. Because our mind is changing constantly. So that's why if you train your mind not to be a crazy wild monkey, it's jumping from branch to branch, then we can start trusting a little bit more, because then, the thoughts are a little bit more coherent. It's not just like this chaotic stream. And even sometimes thoughts that don't even belong to us come in. It's called mental pollution, but that's another story. That's why it's so important to be able to protect our mind, to really train our mind. Very important. That's the first step, with the correct motivation. So in Dharma it talks about tap, shut up, dan ngejung. So tap is the method. Shut up is the wisdom. And ngejung is a renunciation. Right? So the method is bodhicitta, which starts off with compassion, of course. And the wisdom is the understanding. Right? The information. To be able to put in practice, to empower that compassion. And then the renunciation is so important because it's to understand the reality of samsara. If you believe in samsara. Samsara. Yeah. Do you believe? Yeah. Because some people say, we're here, we die, and that's it, goodbye, ciao. So let's have fun. Anyways, I have friends who think like that. They say, "Oh, it's destiny, the stars already have chosen the destiny for me. I don't have a choice." But that's a little bit like trying not to. It's a little bit like a lazy kind of point of view, I think.
That's crazy.
That's crazy, yeah. That's crazy. So yeah, we have to take responsibility. We have a very important responsibility in this life. So that's why we have to train. I got lost in all these words. Anyways, you get the picture, right? Yeah? So, if you're aware of samsara, you can create a renunciation. Renunciation is not like, oh, I love doing this and this and this and this, and now suddenly I'm not going to do it because I want to be a better person, and then you're suffering. No! That's not renunciation. And then you're like flogging yourself. Oh, I have to purify. That's not renunciation, okay? Don't get me wrong. Maybe for some people it works, I don't know. Doesn't work for me. I've tried it, trust me. With myself. I have been really hard with myself most of my life, and I understood that that's not the path. It's not constructive or productive. It's actually the opposite. We have to be very kind with ourselves, because that's how we train to learn how to be kind with others. But so renunciation basically it's like an analytical meditation of to understand where are we? What are we doing here? You know, what is it? What is this hologram? It's hard to believe it's a hologram, right? So that's why you have to take baby steps. So in Dharma it talks about, if you think about it, everything we perceive comes through these nerves, right? And it's electro transmissions that we receive in the brain, and then the neurons somehow package it in a way for us to kind of get this idea or concept. But there is so many different, moderators, or different, like doorways or pathways, or what do you call it, like, interpretations, you could say. Interpretations. So there's so many different interpretations until it reaches our brain and then our mind, or whatever you want to call it. So just with that logic, you can see that what we perceive has absolutely nothing to do with what's out there. You know? If there's no perceiver, it doesn't really have a color or a shape or a taste or a smell, right? We are the ones who kind of give it that. We are the ones who actually give it the color. Well, the color is there, kind of, right? I don't know, is it? Inherently existent, right? It doesn't exist from its own side, but those are just words. But it's to understand the concept. You know, that we cling to an aspect, a concept, so strongly because we believe it to be true. But the moment we understand it, it's just an interpretation of interpretation. It's just these impulses that reach our brain, and then we perceive it in a certain way. And then we perceive it, and then we reject, or we want, or we don't care, basically. So we react to that perception. And that's where we're creating the habit. Right? So how to change the habit is to be equanimous towards what we perceive. You know, instead of wanting, or not caring, just be equanimous. So any sensation that arises, that we perceive, be equanimous. And that's a huge meditation, actually. Because that is training our mind to be much more peaceful, much more at peace. So in very difficult situations, we can deal with them in a different way. You know, we don't have to react badly, or, we don't get this emotional hijack. Or this uninvited guest that arrives and we just give him full power. Right? It's like the guest that arrives at 4 a.m. in your house, knock, 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 and you open the door and it's a family member and you're like super suspicious. Why are you here? What's going on? You're not sure if you want to let them in or not. Even if it's a family member. But then somehow, when the anger comes, what do? Oh, come in here, have a cup of tea, have some biscuits, take total control of me. And obviously, always we regret. In the end, you always regret, because when you do things with that kind of emotions, low frequency, destructive emotions, it's not constructive, it's not beneficial, and most of the times you hurt yourself, you hurt others. But why do we let those emotions in? It's because we feel we have the right, we're proud. Oh, that person did this, that person said that, so I have it right. I'm right, they're wrong, or whatever. So, and then in the end, what happens? We regret it. Or not. Some people don't regret it because they feel, oh, I'm right, and who cares, they deserve that. So anyway, so that is a very important aspect to be aware of. Energetic ball that I talk about, it's an idea. But it happens many times, people, if you have that empathy or that compassion towards that person, then even if they say harsh words and they're really aggressive at you, you can see the reality behind that. If you're a little bit ignorant and you're just very self-centered, he said this to me, then you get so angry and then all the spit starts flying all over the place. You, oh no, me, blah, blah. the energy it back at them. So that's being completely unrealistic. Because if you actually observe, that person is acting like that because they're actually sending a message. The message is, I am suffering. I am unhappy. I exist. You know? So once you see that, you can never react in a bad way. You can only react with compassion. And then what happens? The energetic ball, the black energetic ball, gets neutralized. And then you give back a beautiful, shining light ball back. And then, what happens? And then if they continue, well, you continue giving like that. So it's time for them to work on their mind. If you're there all the time, then they feel the right to like put you down and shout at you and this and that. So you have to have that balance. Again, you have to have that balance. But if it gets too overwhelming, you just walk away. Give them the space for them to observe their mind. You know? For them to confront the demons, basically. These demons are not outside, the demons are inside. Just like the angels, or whatever you want to call it. You know? Everything is inside. If you want to be scared of something, be scared of yourself. That's what Dharma is saying. To save yourself from yourself. Is that correct? That's what we're doing here. We're trying to save ourselves from ourselves. Because we, just like we can be our best friend. Sorry?
Phobias.
Phobia.
Like heights, for me, is a phobia, right? And it's not something to reflect on. Put yourself in a situation, that fear straight away comes up. So sometimes I put myself in these difficult situations. And then, like you were saying before, maybe someone can make a conscious decision if we argue with somebody, or we throw things back at them.
Yeah.
Phobias come up so quickly that it's almost like an avalanche.
Yeah. That's why it's a challenge, huge challenge. The bigger the challenge, the better, right?
Yeah.
But for example, that is a perfect example of past life.
Yeah.
Reincarnation.
So.
Because why doesn't everybody have that?
Right.
Why only some people? It's probably maybe because in the past life you died like that. You fell from a great height and then you have that trauma still.
Yeah.
Maybe through meditation you can actually remember that life and neutralize it.
Yeah.
For example, I don't know, or meditate upon that. Where does it come from? How does it come? The mechanism. Observe.
Yeah.
Observing the mind is really good meditation.
Yeah.
Not giving it importance and clinging to it, but actually letting it come and go and observing it. And then most importantly, looking between each thought. What is there? Because that is the real aspect of the mind. Between the thoughts. It's a split second of clarity.
I'll try again.
What?
I'll try again.
It's a process. That's why I don't like you to use it. It's not like it's not a problem. It's use the word problem, it can be so overwhelming. You know, it's difficult to kind of get out of that. Oh, I have a problem. It's like this weight that's pushing down. You think about it as a process. You know, I'm just going through this process in order to reach another aspect of myself, to understand better myself, to be able to help others. Then transform that problem. It's not a problem anymore, it's just a process. So that's another thing about Dharma also. It's how to be a happier person. Change your perspective, change your life. Right? And the attitude. The attitude is so important. Because you can have a good body, you can have a lot of knowledge, you can have lots of friends, you can have good circumstances, you can be... all these different aspects, they just sum. It's like plus. But attitude multiplies. Attitude multiplies. That's why the attitude is super important. The attitude is like the most important actually. And not just the attitude with yourself, with others. You know, so if you actually have the good attitude, then you're already practicing Dharma. It's not about meditation or doing prostrations or going to initiations or accumulating or how many teachings or gurus or this and that. No, it's about an attitude. It's how you The attitude you have with yourself, the attitude you have with others. And that multiplies. So that is what the biggest impact is going to have, the attitude. And many times our attitude is based on our state of mind. Right? And our state of mind many times gets triggered by certain aspects of how we choose to react. Right? Yeah. Oh, so that's number 3 actually. We're talking about number 3, alive meditation. Is that, did I write it correctly?
How to make
Oh,
it
that
alive.
was yeah, so meditation, you can do meditation anywhere, anytime. You know? For me, you know, when I'm in the toilet, it's very good for me to meditate in the toilet. It's like nobody disturbs me. You know, I'm in my space. You know, so it's a good opportunity. It's not like, oh, you know, like, of course it's good to meditate in front of the altar, you know, like in the professional way, you could say. Oh yeah, I have my altar, I have my little table, I have my statues, you know. It's great, that's a great aspect of meditation. But you can meditate anywhere, anytime, if you choose. And by doing things also, you know, you can do walking meditation, you can do cooking meditation, right, Ray? I mean, we are what we eat, you know, so it's amazing. You're actually, that is compassion in action. You're making this delicious food full of love so that people can eat, so that they can continue with their life and practice and use it as an energy to put into good use. And there's many aspects like that in life. You know, so all of that can be a meditation. You just have to be able to define meditation. And I think meditation can be, in a way, to be conscious or aware. Right? And what is that word that's really, really used a lot?
To familiarize?
No, there's a word that's been really used.
Place of mindfulness?
No. Aware. And there's a word that's been very used. It'll come.
Conscientiousness?
No. Yeah, it's very commercial. It's become commercial now.
Oh, it's
Mindfulness.
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 Yeah.
Yeah. Mindfulness. Anyway, something like that. But I think that's really good. You know, that the fact that mindfulness it's been really commercialized. I think it's good because at least we're going in the right direction. You know, but we have to add more information to that to understand what really mindfulness is. It's to not just to be aware, I mean, of just your mind and your actions and, you know, people surrounding you, but it's also how you relate. How you relate to yourself, how you relate to others. To be mindful of that. And it's a constant, you know, to be present. To be present. Because everything is happening in the present, right? 2,500 years ago when Buddha was giving teachings, it was now. Just like now is now, right? So, the present is a gift. That's why they call it the present. It's a gift. It's so important, yeah, to be present. How are we going with time?
Good.
Yeah? Does anybody want pee-pee break or anything like that?
I need to go and meditate.
Sorry?
I need to go and meditate.
Oh, good! I like that. Okay, let's do a pee-pee break. 15 minutes. What time is it? I don't have time here.
3:20.
3:20?
Yeah.
3:20. How about 3:35-ish? Is that good?
Yes.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
The sun is about to go down. So beautiful. Sunset. Impermanent sunset, but so beautiful. You know, I like a mantra. This one mantra I really like. And the mantra goes like this: I am bigger than my problems. It's a great mantra, it works. I tell you. I can give you the transmission if you want. You like that mantra, huh?
You approve of it.
What?
You approve of it.
You approve?
I thought it was process, not problems. No?
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Bigger than your
I am
process.
bigger than my process. So yeah, we want the solution to our temporary suffering, right? But it seems so big, so overwhelming. So that's why, you know, sometimes it's good, you know, to think that we're bigger than our problems in that sense. It's good. Because we're looking for temporary happiness and we're trying to run away from temporary suffering, you know, but in the end it's just temporary, you know, so it's not the ultimate, it's not the real thing, it's not the real deal. You know, I mean, you can eat all the chocolate you want, but you'll never really get satisfied. You know, I mean, you can eat a lot in one sitting, and then you'll just feel really sick. But the next day you'll want more chocolate, right? So, it's temporary satisfaction, temporary happiness, just temporary. So, that's samsara, you know, we're going around in circles again and again and again. So, the point is to get out of samsara, so we can help others to get out of samsara too. You know, so, we have to create the platform in order for that to happen. So anyways, so that's, for me, I feel my purpose is more like to give an introduction, kind of like to be able to help people relate to Dharma, you know, to identify. And then of course there's so many amazing teachers, you know, that actually can teach Dharma, you know. I'm not a teacher at all, I'm a student. And actually I'm learning from you. And that's for me how I see it, you know, that's a little bit my purpose, you know, to try to give an introduction, to spark a little bit of interest of, oh, hey, you know, maybe there's something else, you know, maybe I can investigate more. The satisfaction lies within, happiness lies within, right? And of course, if you have moderation, then it's much more healthy. My father used to say, but without moderation it's bad, you know, even water can kill you. So, and talking about water, I think water is a great example like of love, because water is always there, it's giving, you know, and it doesn't expect anything in return. So it gives life. So water for me is a great example of what love is like. It's a little bit on life. Anyways, okay. How to keep joyful enthusiasm in a complex world. That's complex. Joyful enthusiasm. I think it's, of course, it's in the morning. Every morning, motivate yourself, you know. And at night, you dedicate. At night, say, okay, what am I happy with? What did I feel that I can improve on? You know, and then work on that. And dedicate, okay, the time, the energy, the space I've been giving today, you know, I'm going to dedicate it to the benefit of all mother sentient beings. And it's very interesting, in Dharma it talks about mother sentient beings, you know, because we've been being reborn, dying reborn for so long, I mean, for infinite time, that we've all been each other's mother at a certain point. So that's why it says, mother sentient beings, so that we can relate to that unconditional love the mother has for their children. So that's in order to create certain kind of compassion, to be aware, you know, if you can relate to every sentient being like the unconditional love a mother has for his son or daughter, then that's already one huge step. And I feel I mean, of course, joyful enthusiasm. I mean, it's difficult sometimes because we are wired in a way to kind of overvalue negativity much more than positiveness, right? But if you think about it, negativity, there's only maybe about 1% of negative things going on. What do you call it? Negativity, or what do you call that? The negative aspect. If it was more than 1%, we couldn't maybe walk out the door. We'd be eaten by monsters. We open the door, that's it, we're gone. Some people live in that kind of situation, like a war zone, or a famine, or mass. What do you call it? Anyways, these situations, where it's very difficult to live. You're in constant fear. I mean, of course, if you think about the animal realm, it's a little bit like that. Animals are always alert, always fearful of losing their life, looking for food, looking for shelter, they're scared, and fear. That's why, it's very hard to practice Dharma as an animal, right? And if you're a god, that, you're just total ecstasy all the time, total bliss, blissed out. And then until the time of the death, these gods, they have limited time also because based on the merits. Then at the time of the death, they really suffer so much, because they are aware of where they're going. They do have some kind of clairvoyance. And then, of course, they say, oh, I'm going to be reborn as, the family, this pig, family of pig or whatever it is. And then it's so hard to get out of there. We do create the cause. So, I mean, if you want to see the past, look at the present. If you want to see the future, look at the present. So we are creating the cause for the future, and we are here because we created the cause in the past. And like, for example, for me, it's a little bit more like evolution and de-evolution, right? The good and evil. So you're moving forward or you're moving backward. The more you go in one direction, the easier it is to go in that direction every time. Because we are creatures of habit, right? We're creating that habit all the time. So the more good you do, the easier it is to do it. And the easier we just fall into that. And the more bad things we do, the easier it is to do that. And like, for example, if you think about like that, we can be reincarnated as a tiger, for example. Right? And a tiger, in order to survive, it has to kill and create suffering. In order to survive. And it doesn't do it with a bad intention. It's just the way nature is, that is the instinct it has. And that is the metabolism, the body it has is designed, it has to kill and eat alive animals. So it creates that suffering. And then in order to survive, how many animals does a tiger kill in one lifetime? It's a lot. So then that's an example, you're reborn in a favela somewhere, or some really hard neighborhood where you have to be part of a gang. In order to be accepted by the gang, you have to kill someone to show that you're worth. To be like that, and then you're just stuck in this situation where you just keep de-evolving. And it's so hard to get out of that. So right now we have that opportunity. If you think about it, we're not in a war zone. Probably it's less than 1% of negative things are happening in our life. But somehow we make so big. Because if we're self-centered, then our problems are huge, right? Why are other people's problems not as big as ours? Why are other people's problems not as important as ours? Why don't we, why? Because we are, of course, we are in our body. We're apparently, seems like we're stuck inside our body, right? So we relate to the world through our body, from within, towards the outside. So, we do have this concept of separation, which is incorrect according to the text, but it's hard to fathom, it's hard to understand, right? But actually everything is of the same nature. So we can really, relate to everything. And I think it's so important, to be aware of those aspects. And really make an effort to use this precious human rebirth, this opportunity to keep evolving. We've got up to here. Let's keep moving on that way. And try to improve slowly. So I think that one of the things that to have a joyful enthusiasm is to actually turn it around. Instead of giving so much importance to negativity, give much overvalue positivity, overvalue that. And then when negative things happen, don't give so much importance unless you want to learn from it. You want to use it as a tool to improve or to help, to create compassion, things like that. Okay, you know, in a constructive way. But don't just get overwhelmed by it and just focus on that, because then that will be your life. Your life will be negative. You know, if you're only thinking about negative things and you're just observing that and overvaluing that, in the end, that's what you're going to have. Right? So, but if the other way around, you just, you know, overvalue positiveness, you make that the most important part, then that's what it's going to be positive. Right? So, it's not like everything's black and white, you know, you can't just go from one extreme to another. It is difficult for many people. And that's why we have a huge opportunity to be able to help others, to improve their life. Because you can't change the world, you have to change yourself. And then you have to be the change that you want to see in the world. Right? Does that make sense? Yeah. So you have to start with yourself. And that's also, you can come into climate change if you want now. I think climate change, of course, is something that's, we maybe created the karma as a collective. Right? But we are entering very interesting times where, you know, we don't really know what's going to happen. I mean, who knows? Who knows? Maybe, how many years do we have until 2030? 2030? So 10 years and maybe we won't be able to grow much stuff anymore because the temperature will change. So if we can't grow crops, how are we going to eat? What are we going to eat? Anyway, so it's an issue. So right now, scientifically, we have about 10 years. But, you know, that's the thing. We don't want to base our decisions on fear. Fear is not a high frequency vibration, you know. So I have a motto, it's prepare for the worst. So I mean, who knows? Maybe we adapt, maybe the planet adapts, I don't know. But I think we do have a responsibility individually, and I think it's important to be aware of our lifestyle. You know, we're consuming and we're creating rubbish. What is the carbon footprint we're creating? You know, so all these aspects to try to make it a minimum. Try to be aware in everyday life. Try to kind of like put our grain of sand, you know, or a grain of rice to try to stop that. You know, and I think as a collective we can achieve it. You know, I mean, we can actually change things slowly. It's already happening. Okay, so there's a lot of really positive things happening. And I think that's what we really have to focus on, the positive aspect of life. And of course, we use the negative aspect to kind of value that positiveness and really be aware of that. You know, but not let the negative aspect overwhelm us, and then we just become useless. We just become, you know, overwhelmed and just. So anyway, that's a little bit. I mean, I can't really talk much about climate change because I don't know much about it.
Can I ask you something about?
Yeah.
How you're answering the question.
Tell me.
Because the feeling seems to be much more now for people who are involved with it that it is too late. So it's not a negative thing if you don't see it as, because all the things you've said are talking about attachment. So if there's an attachment to us as human beings to be alive, then it's a problem. But a lot of people are thinking beyond that and thinking, well, maybe that's not how we should be thinking, but they don't know where to look. And there's not this sort of collective consciousness of how to think in a different way about, okay, we're becoming extinct, that's okay, the planet survives, things change. Yeah. And we continue on another level. Maybe. Who knows? Exactly.
But what do you mean by attachment?
Well, because if people want to survive, then they're attached to the life that they have.
Well, I'm talking more also about the next generation. I have a son, and for me it's really important to have an idea that he's going to have a beautiful life. Exactly. And, you know, so that is something that worries me.
Exactly.
Maybe it's attachment, I mean, maybe it could be, yeah. I mean, I'm sure it's mixed with attachment somehow, because I have deluded mind. So, yeah.
It's a message that needs to come out to people, and I suppose the mindfulness movement is something that's non-secular, so it's easier to grasp. Yeah. Buddhism is too specific, but to me, science and Buddhism have it, they have the answer. But, you know, how do we project that message? How do people see it? Where do they see it? And I'm looking, and I can't.
How did you see what?
See how how to
a better
change their
future.
mindset from, you know, if it changes, it changes. We just have to go towards it in a good way. Where you were talking about with hope, but hope is again, it's attachment. If you have hope, you're attached.
I think there's a difference between hope and hopeful. Sort of,
Yes.
Hope can be either with expectation that something will happen, but hope that is active is like, leaves a bit of room for possibility.
So hoping because you're doing something,
That
not
it's-
just hoping.
I think Jeremy
let it
Macy
be.
talks about active hope, and I found those words.
Active hope, yeah, I like that word.
Active
That's a good
hope
word.
is a sense that we can still be active, but it's not dependent on, you were saying about process, that it's not dependent on there being specific outcomes, because it's looking very serious, but we could still remain actively hopeful, and I find that really helpful, that it's not, that, how we remain actively hopeful.
But that's why we
is
put the grain of rice,
grain of
right?
sand. Nothing too small. Greta Thunberg says everything counts, no action too small.
Exactly.
And it's so true.
That's why, to be aware of our carbon footprint, of the rubbish we accumulate, what we consume, how we live. Sorry?
And plant trees.
Oh, plant trees, definitely. I have a project of planting trees, as many trees all over the globe, to create this movement of planting trees. And then eventually to offer that to His Holiness the Dalai Lama as a, what do you call it?
Long life. The long life of His Holiness and the planet.
Yeah, it's for the long life of His Holiness the Dalai Lama and the planet. So that is my active hope, we can call it like that. I think if each of us can plant at least one tree, that would be wonderful.
I'm not quite sure if this is in the same with what you're talking about, but hope based on maybe emotion isn't particularly helpful, but hope based on wisdom may be more helpful. Is that sort of crossing over to what you're talking about or not? I mean, it's the way that this hope's engendered, isn't it? Don't you think?
There's motivation there. There's where our motivation comes. We're actually hopeful because we want actually things to remain, at the moment in climate change, we want things to remain the same as we've always known it, then we're going to be disappointed because everything's changing. The news is giving us that information the whole time, but if we can be actively hopeful and actually taking responsibility for what we do in small ways, then there is something that's actually generative and possible.
More of a wisdom-based hope, I think, the way I interpret what you've just said. Rather than just hoping, I really hope it will, without any real action at all.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, attachment, I think, it's also a kind of instinct of survival. I mean, that attachment of not losing your life. I mean, survived as a species. So I don't know, there's just so many aspects and perspectives to everything, and that's why philosophy is so good, because you can debate. Always more than one conclusion. But anyways, that's why it's a process, a learning process to slowly be more aware of what are we doing here and how can we improve ourselves. For me, that's my purpose, at least. So I can share that. That's why I'm making a point of studying Dharma now, because I feel that it's important for me to understand the teachings of Buddha so I can also be of more benefit. Because not just out of experience, but also to understand the concepts more. So I'm really happy, to get feedback from me is great. And I think it's also because if we have doubts, if we have, things like that, it's good to speak out, because then we can clarify between all of us. Because we are a collective, we are a community, we are a family. The whole planet is a family, the whole universe is a family. And, so. Anyway, so I'm sorry I can't really talk much about climate change, but I think, yes, active hopefulness, active hope is good. So we have to do something about it. We have to take responsibility. Not just despair and that's it. Or be fearful and that's it. That's what I'm saying. We need to put our grain of sand, grain of rice. I think grain of rice is more useful than a grain of sand. But the grain of sand comes out because that's the metaphor you use all the time. The countless grains of sand from the Ganga. Okay. So it's good also to pray. I think the power of prayer is really powerful. And of course, together, complementarily, you have to do something about it, obviously. That's pretty obvious.
In what way, the power of prayer?
Yeah.
The power of prayer. So, for example, so that's the motivation in the morning, you know. May I, for me, even though it doesn't exist from its own side, so that's one meditation already. You observed, check, where is the I? So search. Then, so this I, whatever it is, may I be a benefit. And my motivation is I want to dedicate this time and space and energy that I'm going to have today to learn, to improve, to be able to help others have a better life. Something like that. And that is already a prayer. And that habit helps you to have more compassion, to be more aware of others. You know, it's all complementary. It all comes down to the same thing, which is bodhicitta. And if you're not grateful, it's difficult to have bodhicitta also, you know, because you have to be grateful. You have to be aware of what you have in order to know what you can offer also. So what does it mean to be a practical, engaged Buddhist in our modern day and age? I think that's basically it. It sums it up, you know. I mean, to be a person who's active in your life, for example, just like the workspace. People are stressed, sometimes people are unhappy, people are tired. And you yourself can many times be tired and overwhelmed, you know. So that is also how to put in practice that. The more difficult the situation, the better opportunity to put in practice Dharma. Right? That's how you train your mind. You don't train your mind just by chilling. You train your mind. You train your mind when you're challenged by life. These difficult situations, you know, and then you have to be able to be aware and observe your mind. That is the training, you know. So when somebody talks to you harshly, that is a great opportunity. They are your teacher, because they're helping you to see those demons that come out from within. So I think that's engaged, you know, practical, engaged Buddhist is that, you know, I mean, to be a better person, every day striving to be a better person, you know. I can't stop repeating it, you know, because I think it's really important to make a point. I know maybe I'm repeating it too much, I don't know, but for me it's really important. That is the basis. That is the basis. You know, if you don't get that, then forget about everything else. It doesn't really, it's not so helpful. And you can take all the initiations, all the teachings, all these things if you want. If you don't get that right, you know, if you're not a compassionate person starting with yourself, and you actually make an effort to be aware of your own demons, then, you know, it doesn't really make any difference at the end of the day. So, I think, is it helpful? Yeah. Am I covering everything, kind of? No confusion?
Very confusing.
Okay. Are you happy? Everybody is happy? Good. Keep that happiness. So yeah, so the last part is about the guru, right? Who asked me about?
Wasn't it you?
No, that was
the actions.
Was it you?
Yeah.
The actions of a guru.
How
to deal with that?
How any suggestions, advice on how our minds, my mind, can work with aspects of the guru that manifest in a way that contradicts my own morality or whatever.
In a conventional aspect or ultimate aspect?
I'm not at the ultimate level, so
conventional. Well, conventionally we're all in samsara. We're all in the same boat.
Is that an excuse?
No, it's not an excuse. It's an explanation that the guru has a human aspect. Right? In order for us to be able to relate to that guru, as an example. I mean, I don't know if I'm really the right person to talk about this, because I'm not a guru, first of all, and I will never accept anybody to really call me a guru. I'm not a teacher. I don't feel I'm qualified as a teacher. I don't know if I ever will be. I'm more of a student, and I think we learn from each other.
Actually, I really hope and pray you will be.
So I'm in a box. Sorry. I feel it a little bit like that. It's like putting someone in a box. I know, okay, traditionally speaking, wow, the guru is so special. So I know that. It's great. But I don't want to be a guru. I just don't feel qualified. I don't want to be put in a box. I want to be myself and I want to be able to learn. I think we all learn from each other, you know. And actually, if you think about it, there is a, I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about it, but at the tantric level, a high tantric level, you actually visualize that you are the guru and the guru is you. I don't know if it's super secret, but I'm saying it now. But I think it's important to make a point about it because, you know, that is how it works. You know, so it's not something separate. You know, it's not something far away. You know, in the end, that's who you are. You know, that is what we're talking about. We started talking about Buddha nature, Buddha potential, right? So there is many explanations that say, okay, the guru manifests this, manifests that, in order to transform your mind, in order to accept. I don't know. For me, it's very difficult to kind of fathom or even tackle that. You know, like I can't really deal with something like that.
But you have that relationship with His Holiness.
Yeah.
Or with other teachers.
I mean, for me, whatever His Holiness does is always going to be perfect, no matter what. And maybe it's just, I don't know, it's also about, many times we see what we are, right? I don't know, maybe, am I putting myself in a different situation? I tend to do that. I dig a hole and then I jump in. But it's very tricky, you know. It's important to tackle these questions. It's so important, and for me it's a challenge, and I want to. But it's difficult, you know, because I don't want to create confusion, and I can't speak for others. I can only speak for myself. So, anyways, I just really hope that people that are put in that position as a guru have a good, you know, a good, what do you call it? A good attitude, a good, yeah, that they, anyways, I don't want to get into that. It's just, I don't know, I can't answer that. I don't know, some people say, oh, it's karma, spirits. Some people say, oh, it's a manifestation of the guru, that they're manifesting for us to learn an aspect of ourselves, because they're a reflection of a certain aspect that we have to work on. There's different ways to see it. I mean, conventionally, many times, I don't know, it's very difficult, you know, but I can tell you that I will always be on the side of the victim. I will never protect or defend the institution or the abuser, whoever it is. I will always be on the side of the victim. That's who I am, and that's what I can say very clearly. That's who I am. So I hope that helps in a way. But I mean, we are living in crazy times, and humans are crazy, kind of, if you look at the human history. But we are entering a really amazing age of information, and we're just so lucky to be here at the time where we can actually watch on the computer. We just press play and we just watch the teachings, you know. So precious. Back in the times of the Buddha, you know, you would have to travel for months walking, you know, and you could get sick, you could get, you know, killed by robbers, and it was so hard to get there. You had to follow these merchant pathways. What do you call it? Trade routes. And then the languages would change. You probably didn't understand the languages, and then finally you get to where the Buddha is, and maybe the Buddha is teaching way far away, and you can't even hear what he's saying. So then you can only understand the interpretation of such and such person who heard it, who's explained to that person, who explained to that person. Like that, you know, in a way. So right now we live like kings, actually, if you think about it. Only kings back then could have the enjoyment that we have. You know, the samsaric enjoyment. Which is like to have our five senses bombarded at the same time. Together. How amazing is that? Only kings had that kind of experience where they could listen to music. They had lots of people playing music for them, lots of people bringing food, and then entertainment, and then perfumes, massage, all at the same time. The king. 5 senses bombarded. That's like the ultimate, the maximum. Right? We have that these days. We can have that, right? We can watch TV, listen to music, press play. We can eat the food at the same time we're watching a movie, being entertained.
Order new clothes on the end.
Order new clothes, click, 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 yeah. Oh, I want this, I want that, I want this, click, 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 all from your home. They bring it to your house, you know, you don't even have to go out to get what you want. Food, everything, they bring it to your house. So actually we're really lucky. But that's the thing, you know, many times we have gold in front and we don't see it because it's in front. We're looking here, everywhere, you know. And that is one of the aspects of our mind. Unsatisfaction, you know, like if you think about it, life is magical, so magical, but we just forget about it because it's normal. The sun, it's amazing. The wind that makes the trees dance is amazing. The fact that somebody can talk and you can hear and you can understand these words or vibrations or whatever it is that's just traveling invisibly and reaches your ear, and then your ear can transform it into information you can understand, you can communicate. There's just so many different ways of communicating. It's amazing. That is magical, and we forget about it because it's something normal. And we don't give it that much importance. And then we're, oh, here, there, this, that, oh, I want more, I need, that's not enough, oh, this, me, blah, blah, blah. So that's why it's very simple at the end of the day. It's very simple, you know, you just have to be aware of everything. It's a beautiful hologram. It's really magical. Sometimes I think, oh, maybe this is just a simulation, and then, you know, the more merits we create, when we wake up, when we die, and then we wake up and they're like, hey, congratulations, you won the first prize. Or maybe if you did a really bad job, you wake up and say, okay, now you're going to jail. You're punished now. I don't know. It's funny. But anyways. So just try to do your best, you know, and that's good enough. You know, don't think you can't do, you know, just be proud of yourself, you know, but be humble also. Because we belong. And yeah, active hope. Yeah. Put it into practice. And anything else? Can I talk about anything else? Or would you like to say something? Is it good? Was it a good package today? Okay. Thank you so much.
Sorry,
Yes.
one more question. In the context you just given of all of these sense experiences that we can have at the press of a button, do you think Tibetan Buddhism is going to survive?
Tibetan Buddhism is going to survive? Well, everything is changing constantly.
So Tibetan Buddhism is going to change?
Well, everything is changing all the time.
It's just that it's very much...
The only thing that doesn't change is space. Yeah. Everything...
Reality is...
Or the absence of the elephant in the room also doesn't change. But that's philosophy. Now you see, I'm learning, huh? Sorry. So is it going to change? Of course it's going to change. It is always changing. It has changed from 2,500 years ago, from the time of the Buddha. It's changed completely. And of course we need a new adaptation. We need an update for Western mind, for Western lifestyle and culture. So of course it is, yeah, definitely.
So if somebody like you isn't part of that process, how's that process going to happen?
Well, I mean, we're all part of the same collective, so we are all part of the same process. I mean, like, I don't know, what do you mean? Like, are you saying I'm not a Buddhist?
If that's what you heard, I think what I'm saying is, I think that a lot of the aspects of foundation of the preservation of the Mahayana tradition have sometimes focused very much on the external tradition.
Yeah.
And
You're
I'm
right.
just requesting that you, with all your Western understanding, be part of that process of making Western Buddhism.
Can I tell you a secret?
Well, it wouldn't be a secret if you told us.
A big secret then. No, I mean, I don't know if I'm a Buddhist or not.
Exactly.
I try to be Buddhist. I'm learning about Buddhism.
Yeah.
And maybe I'll be learning about Buddhism all my life. Yeah. I'm striving to be a better person every day. Yeah. So I guess that kind of makes me a Buddhist. I don't know. It's just a label in the end of the day. It's more about an attitude and a lifestyle and how you relate to people and how you relate to yourself and all sentient beings, obviously. I think that's the important aspect, you know, whether you call it one thing or another doesn't really matter, you know, but Dharma helps you to be a better person, whatever you're doing, you know. Dharma helps you to be a better person. And whatever religion, whatever job you have, Dharma is helping you to be a better person. So you can't really just, you know, put it in a box. I mean, I know we like to put things in a box because we like to feel that we're in control, because we are fearful of the unknown. But sometimes it's good to get out of the box, because we're traveling in boxes, we're living in boxes, and when we die they stick us in a box. So I think it's good to sometimes get it, you know, some fresh air. Get out of the box. So anyways, yeah. But thank you for the question, and I will try my best to be part of a kind of a maybe new model. But I don't want to change anything. I just want to help, you know, create a new model to reach more people, you know, to have it, to be able to relate to another aspect of themselves. Basically, so we can live in a more happy world and be more happy. You know, that's it. You know, I think like His Holiness the Dalai Lama, he says, the future is education. You know, so we need to educate. You know, we need to learn. We have to, and the next generation, of course. We need more Gretas. Many more Gretas.
Who's Greta?
Greta?
Greta Thunberg, the
You've been out of it too long, Tom.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Please keep up the good work. Okay. Please keep up the good work. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I'm sorry if I make any mistakes. Thank you.
On behalf of Land of Joy, on behalf of everybody here, can I just offer our thanks to you for being here, for sharing your processes and your thoughts and your passions with us. And we very much hope that you are going to be coming back again regularly.
Definitely.
To visit us again, to help us discuss and become better people, and maybe help with the cooking.
Oh yeah.
Yes,
very good.
So, and we'd like to offer a long life prayer. So I think we all have to.
Can we do a long life prayer for His Holiness and Lama Zopa? Yes. So we dedicate to His Holiness and to Lama Zopa Rinpoche and all our Virtuous friends. The long life. Thank you.
Oh, you got one?
Yeah, thank you. And you too.
Enchanting mother, like a brilliant snowman, in the shining consumption of signs and hearts, who when seen captive with minds, when heard soothes the sorrows of hearts, when recalled protects from all fears of immortality, give a life which granting wheel, grant that all may be auspicious. Lord of Dharma, who in accordance with the various dispositions of those to be subdued, spoken advice, the sacred Ganden tradition, essence of Buddha's teachings, foremost and holy Lama, to you who are supreme, we make this prayer of supplication. Venerable One, to you whose kindness exceeds that of all conquerors, for those wandering from our places, especially the West, mindful of your loving concern for us, and intentionally descending again into the family of far distant land, we make this request. Lama, please, please live long. Complete holder of solitude, protector, staying Sutra and Tantra, holding spiritual friend, devotion, profoundly skilled in methods leading us along the fortunate path of liberation, unfolding within us soul and sorrow, warm and wise. Lama, please, please live long. Master of the entire doctrine, having crossed the furthermost shore of the vast ocean of Sutra and Tantra, observing ethics as the foundation of practice and to answer the heart of teachings, consciously following Vinaya. Lama, please, please live long. By the power of pure prayer and Lama, without our ever being separated from our supremely kind Lama, may we be joyfully guided as your children's disciples throughout infinite lives, and by the sweet nectar taste of your holy speech be forever satisfied. spiritual masters, healers and protectors, bless us and help us that we may accomplish the ultimate meaning of life. In our striving, listening, reflecting, and meditating as much as we are able, that we may quickly usher in the golden age that all will. Depth of our heart, the loving kindness of our precious Lama, may every aim to wish to spread the skies be fulfilled. There's no mountains. You are the source of all happiness and goodness, all powerful and raising Tenzin Gyatso. Please remain until samsara ends.
Yeah. So we have to, instead of going so much on Facebook, we have to face our book. And instead of going on the internet all the time, we have to get our internet. Just joking. Okay, so let's dedicate the traditional way. Also, Tibetan style. So let's dedicate, please, everybody. Sanjo, Sanjo, Rinpoche, Mage Panam Kiguchi, Kibaranya Parvaraya, One Wang Pewa Shu, Gewadi, Nye Triguran, Dora Chiya Malu Pa, Te Sala Gewara Shu. Kare Rawe Kurve Shikamandi, Pendan Dewa Malu Jume, Zene Tenzin Gatsoi. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.